Oh, yeah, right on time, ladies and gentlemen. Friday night edition, the Silly Shills Show with us, the Shills. We got Dapper Dino joining us, and we're going to kick some serious butt tonight. Whose butt? Good question. We've got YouTube channel World Video Bible School with the video 6 Reasons Not to Believe in Evolution. That should be an interesting dive into hell. And we've got a channel called Ignite Liverpool. The video is Christopher Brown, Dinosaurs Are Bullshit. And if we can get to it, Unexplained Mysteries brings us their video. NASA announced that something massive is lurking just outside of our solar system. Who knows the run times? Who knows what we're going to get to? But let's get around the table and see who's all here tonight. We've got first up, I say, is going to be Steaming Cup of Reason. How's it going, buddy? What's happening your way?
Oh, things are going all right, man. A little bit throaty today, so I'm going to try and hang around as long as I can, but looking forward to kicking some stupid today. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. Well, I'm not going to bug you too long. Rest up and get ready. Save it for when it's needed. How about Sarcastic Barman? How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing absolutely damn awesome, thank you, dude. Oh, excuse me one sec. Had a really fun video that I did this week. Got to play with my green screen, which was well fun. Awesome. Yeah, life is good at the moment. It's just fucking cold.
Oh, yeah, we're getting it over here, too. I know what you mean. Don't
well,
want
you're getting it worse than us. I will be fair. I say it's cold. It's like -2.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting, too. We're in the same as you. I'm in a special spot, so it's not too bad. Not too bad.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. So, and, well, I wonder what, if we go way back in time, what it was, what could the weather bring if we check in a cave town? Logical Troglodyte. How's it going, buddy?
You don't have to whisper when you say my name. I'm not Beetlejuice. And you only got to say my name once, and poof, there I am.
I was about to lose my voice there, and I had to get out quick. How you doing?
That's okay. I like it when you talk sexy to me. Ooh,
oh, baby.
Oh, but you know what? I've been getting out of video. I've been trying to work on one. Jesus, I just realized it was 2 weeks since my last video, and I really am trying hard to keep up with a 1 video per week schedule. I don't know how guys like Mr. Sensible do these multiple videos a week. Jesus, well, he's bald. He's already pulled his hair out, so that may explain it. But it seems that our own beloved Daniel Pratt, his stupid is evolving, and I'm gonna have to feed him to Gracie before it just sprouts legs and starts climbing up walls and shit.
Awesome. I know a certain little man that I'm very close to. Can't wait to see that for sure. Oh man, let's check in with Kevin Kennedy. How's it going, buddy? What's happening your way?
I'll tell you what, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm finally over the many maladies that have had me down the last week or two. Injuries not too bad. This fucking flu-like thing that I had that turned me in.
Oh, I just lost you there, buddy. You roboted out for a sec. You hearing me?
Has the Non Sequitur show back.
Yeah, we lost you there for a whole chunk of that until Non Sequitur show back, and definitely you got to repeat. Go.
I saw that. I got kicked out of the friggin' buzzer room, so I'm gonna have to send everyone a new buzzer link in a second.
Okay.
I've gotten over the many maladies that were keeping me down. I had a bad leg injury and a really bad flu-like thing that turned me into a big baby, but I've pretty much gotten over those, and things are feeling pretty good. And I'm just super happy that Steve has the Non Sequitur show back.
Yep, absolutely. Good shout. I caught the stream, the big announcement. The court is done in final 14-day countdown. That's amazing stuff. Congrats to Steve all around. How about Jutmonk, man? How's things going your way, buddy?
Oi, bitches. How's it going?
Excellent, man. How are you?
Yeah, cool, man. Done another flurf rant. Got an awesome response. So thanks to all you lot. MePet69, I fucking love that number. If you're watching, I didn't reply to you and heart your comment because YouTube swallowed that one for itself. So yeah, but for those of you that like the flurf rants, there's another one coming. And if you missed it, I'm gonna be doing Eric Dubé's 200, 500. Fucking hell, I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd blow my own fucking brains out. 200 so-called proofs again on this channel. Starting soon.
Joe, awesome, why are you doing that to yourself, man?
Yeah.
What?
Why are you doing that to yourself, man?
Why? But, well, I'm going to get a lot of guests in on it, so
That's fair. That's fair.
yeah, I'm going to get help this time.
More
You're going to share the pain.
You're all going to fucking do a video.
You're going to share the pain.
Well, there was Boole there, and that's who I'm going to next. How's it going, man? What's happening your way, Boole?
Well, it's going pretty good, and thank you, Kevin, for stealing my bit of good news, because the TLDR is we won.
Yeah.
And Kyle's a fucking moron, which we already knew, so there's that.
Nice to have legal proof, though. Legal proof is pretty cool.
Legal proof, and starting today, of course, people are butthurt and they're trying to spin it and all this stuff. It's like, you can't spin it. It's a court document. Like, no, you can't. You just can't. People are like, well, it says that Kyle's going to be a 50-50 owner. No, he's not.
No,
that's what breach of contract means. He broke that contract. It's null and void.
Yeah, exactly.
It acknowledges they were 50-50 partners and that he broke it. That's all it's doing.
Exactly. I anybody who actually knows what's going on and paid attention knows the truth, right? I mean, it's just simple.
Yeah, it is. It's quite simple, and people are complicating the fuck out of it for some reason.
Is it worth pointing out that that Unirock's little interview with Kyle was perfectly timed?
Oh, and everything that they talked about was just perfect, because then, like, literally right after, boom, baby.
Exactly. The only way it could have been better is if they were talking while Steve got that information.
Yeah,
and could have gone live with it at the same time. That would have been cherry, but this was good.
And a bottle of champagne. But we got to keep getting around the table here, guys. So let me get to Aimee Hogan. How's it going, Aimee? What's happening your way?
Oh, it's good now, I think. I hope.
Yes, it sounds stable. I think we're good.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you. How is everybody doing tonight? I'm so glad you could make it. And thank you, Dapper Dino, for coming tonight, too. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
And speaking of which, exactly very much. Our guest tonight, Dapper Dino. Welcome to the show, man. How's it going your way?
Oh, it's going pretty well over here. I've got some tequila. That always helps. Let's see. I've actually got a pretty busy weekend. So I've got this. I'm on stream tomorrow. The next day, I have a video premiere the day after that, and then 2 days after that, I'm on stream again.
Oh, wow. You are a busy man. I like to hear that. Because, when you really get the bug and you're engaged, there's always lots to do, isn't there? It's fantastic stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. People are like, oh, hey, what'd you do today? I'm like, I spent like 14 hours recording audio.
I love it. Oh, Aimee, do you want to catch us up a little?
Sure. What have we got here? Yeah, I've got a super chat here from Digital Demonic Davros for Australian $2. He says, PayPal me for Bull and Vape to stream.
And we had another one. Yeah. There is another one that came in right in the beginning of the show. It was Ilya Moon, and it was damn it, it's not in the back, and it was something like, what the hell, love the Shills. But I'm sure she can put it in the chat right now. I'm sorry, I just idioted that so bad. But Ilya Moon kicks ass. It was a really cool super chat, and we love her. That's awesome.
I'm sure I'll find it. It's just that I was having...
Kennedy got it right in front of me.
Oh, go for it then. Okay, here we go. Well, eat your microphone. Then I'll hear you better.
Ilya Moon for $20. Thank you so much, Ilya. She said, because why not? Love you, Shills.
Yeah, see, I was close. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Ilya. Right on. So, let's see here now. Where were you and what were we doing? Oh yeah, at this point I think Kevin was going to take over because he's the buzzer man this time. Kevin, it's your show now.
Oh God.
Take it, buddy.
Well, yeah, I mean, so we've got Dapper Dino on today, and he's got a few particular areas of interest. So we've tried to tailor the videos with him in mind today. And the first one, what was it? It was something to do with Bible school. Let's see. The channel is World Video Bible School, and it's 6 reasons not to believe in evolution. So that should be interesting because, I mean, to my knowledge, I don't think there's any creationists currently in this chat. Although, Dapper Dino, you once were a creationist, but have since reformed.
I was. Yeah, actually, I was. In fact, you interviewed me about that because after the unfortunate passing of Bill Ludlow, I was going to be on his show, and then we decided, you know what? Let's just do the interview because he would probably have preferred that these stories continue to air. And since then, I've done 2 more interviews with people who have left Young Earth creationism. So those are on my channel. So if you're interested in anything like that, like, the stories of people getting out, I'm reaching out to a few more people to get us a few more interviews in. And RJ Downard, I don't know if you know who RJ is, but he was collecting data from Bill's shows, and he has started collecting it from my shows too. So he's going to be trying to turn this into some kind of statistical analysis about things like, when people become Young Earth creationists, when they leave, the kinds of things that tend to convince them, stuff like that.
Very good. I like that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
All right, so in that case, let's see what the 6 reasons we have here that we should not believe in evolution are.
I hope everyone's ready to change their minds about evolution because I'm sure this is going to be great.
I'm so ready. I'm so ready. Blow my mind, video.
Let's do it.
Okay. Enjoy, folks. Here we go.
In the year 2002, in Cobb County, Georgia, there was a sticker that was placed on the inside cover of the biology textbooks. That sticker simply said that these textbooks contain information on evolution. Evolution is a theory, not a fact, about...
I'm glad you paused it.
We're already doing... I don't know what theory means.
Yep.
Oh yeah, sentence in, and we're already there.
Right.
So, I feel like a broken record at this point, but a scientific theory basically is fact. Something only graduates to the level of theory once it's been rigorously tested, and the wolves of peer review have attempted to rip it to shreds and have been unable to.
Right. You can make the argument that a fact in science maybe specifically means a data point. The facts are the numbers that I got on this analysis, and another fact is, the line of best fit or something. But the thing is, if you go with the more general use of fact, which is basically anything which is true or it's so likely to be true that thinking otherwise is perverse, then yeah, all theories are facts under that broader definition.
Right. Yeah. So now I'm curious because I don't know anything about that quote in the textbook. I'm going to guess and say that this textbook was distributed by an organization that's religious in nature somehow.
No, I'm actually pretty sure that this was put in all such textbooks in all the public schools.
Wow.
Yeah. Usually when these things come up, because he said there was a bill, and usually what that means is that there's actually some kind of legislation about this for public schools.
I was going to point out that he showed the state of Alabama, or was it Georgia? I think it was Georgia. He had Georgia up on the screen. Georgia's one of those states where they're trying to push intelligent design, which is a synonym for creationism, back into schools.
Right. In fact, at one point, in trying to get a Young Earth creationism, well, actually, it was just a general anti-evolution creationism book. It didn't really get into the age of the Earth, but it was written by Young Earth creationists. In an attempt to get it in under the guise of intelligent design, they just did a word search and replaced creationist with intelligent design proponent and creation scientist, and they replaced God with the designer. Except at one point, they had misspelled creationist in the original text, and so it slipped through. And that's how people were able to prove that this was just a copy and paste of a creationist textbook.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wasn't the title of the book In Monkeys or something like that? It was like,
I think it was Of Pandas and People is the textbook in question.
Yeah, Pandas and People. It was
It's better than of pine cones and elephants.
Yeah,
I died laughing.
I don't have a pandas and people T-shirt though. I do have a elephants and pine trees T-shirt.
That's the
Oh, cool.
one.
That's funny.
That's the one I actually bought.
Nice, me too. It was great. I love that. I was gonna say debate, but it was more of like a slaughter.
Yeah, Aaron Rod just killed him.
Yep.
Yeah. Although I've actually had a few people say that they liked mine more than his, and I was like, that doesn't seem super reasonable to me. But hey, I'm glad you like my debate.
You don't argue at that moment.
Aaron,
right?
Aaron, while very intelligent and charismatic and everything, sometimes comes off a little standoffish. But you're much more friendly in your demeanor, so some people might kind of connect a little more with that.
Yeah,
So
I think
the
that might be what it is.
Is that the difference between you and me then, Kevin?
Very well.
Yeah.
Very well. So should we see? Well, before we do, I just want to point out people have been pointing out Cobb County is in Atlanta, so it's Georgia.
It is Georgia.
Yeah. Okay.
So
so this would have been a county level rule, so that probably would have been the county school board.
Yeah.
Because it says Board of Education, Cobb County. Okay, yeah.
Can I just point out, because Dino, you were talking about like they were trying to, they basically just took creationist textbooks and inserted the word intelligent design in instead. How do they get away with acting like intelligent design is a new idea? Like, wasn't Thomas Aquinas pushing intelligent design?
So basically, I mean, he was to some extent. Look, it's hard to get into everything that Thomas Aquinas said. The dude wrote volumes, and it's all dense reading.
Yeah.
But basically, ID proponents came up with a few new arguments, which is actually pretty impressive for a creationist group. Because my God, creationists haven't come up with a new. Their last new argument is currently about 15 years old, and before that, I don't know. They're still using claims from the 1850s. Not literally. So intelligent design proponents came up. Their biggest thing was this irreducible complexity thing. So it's the idea is like, if you imagine an arch, right? Like a stone arch, like the Romans might build. Okay, if you take any one stone out of the arch, the whole thing collapses. So then the question is, well, how do you build such a structure piece by piece? You can't. It has to all be there. But of course, the problem you might have guessed from the analogy is, well, arches are built piece by piece. So how are they? Well, you put up a scaffold first, which can be built piece by piece. Then you put in all the bricks, and then you can take the scaffold out. And the same thing can happen in life, where you have this function that's done in a not terribly complex, but usually also not terribly efficient manner. And then you build up step by step better ways to do it until you have a more efficient but redundant pathway to do whatever this thing is. And then you can just remove the less efficient one, since it's no longer going to be facing much selection pressure. Right. And ta-da, you have an irreducibly complex whatever. They're also bad at identifying which things are irreducibly complex. Like, I've heard some argue that the eye is irreducibly complex, but it's not. You can get rid of pretty much anything except the retina and still have something that does something for the animal in question.
That's right. The eye is a great way to show this in its entirety, because if you look through the animals and the record of animals, past as well, there is a clear path from getting light sensing cells or whatever and progressing into an actual working eye. It's right there.
Wait, someone just said I sound like Nathan Thompson. I feel hurt.
Oh, wow. I actually think you sound a bit like Boole. You got similar accent.
Well, that's odd, because I actually have a very artificial accent. I spent probably 4 or 5 years of my life making sure I didn't sound like I was from anywhere in particular.
When you said artificial accent, I was thinking right away of like Next Generation Data, and I was thinking, I spent 4 or 5 years of my life on the Enterprise?
That is correct, sir.
I've got one of the neutral accents too. I've got one of the neutral accents too.
Oh yeah, very neutral.
I can't tell at all what part of the world you might be from.
Oh, too funny.
Okay, man. Germany.
Well, I think we've reached that moment where we need a healthy dose of bullshit so we can move forward.
Absolutely.
I think so.
Oh, allow me to provide.
Out living organisms, and it should be looked at with an open mind, studied carefully, and critically considered. Do you know if you were to take the sentiments of that sticker and you were to look at the evidences for evolution with an open mind and you study them carefully and you critically consider them, what you would find is these evidences don't prove evolution at all. Here are 6
What a fucking dipshit.
Here's the problem I have with this asshole is the false dichotomy he's pulling here. He's not going to talk about evidences for a creationist mindset. He's not going to say, he's not going to say, here's why it's more likely that creation is the more logical course aside from evolution. He's just going to bash evolution, and however many holes evolution has in it, your little magic fairy tale book has a lot fucking more.
Yeah, one of the problems.
You wanted to get in there, right?
Yeah, one of the. Oh, sorry, who was it?
It was Logical Troglodyte.
Oh, yeah, I'll back off.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right, Kevin. He's not providing any evidence for his stance. He's trying to disprove our stance. It's a flurf argument. And when he says you have to critically examine this with an open mind, what he really means is you have to turn your mind off and believe what the fuck I'm saying because faith.
Yeah. And one of the things, like you were saying, is that he's not going to make any like positive claims for creationism. And that's one of the things is creationism makes almost no positive claims about biology. It's hard for me to think of even one thing that creationists will say, okay, if creation is true, I expect X, Y, or Z to be true about biology.
Right.
Because if they did, they would be disproved.
Yes.
And I actually asked a creationist, I was like, okay, well, can you come up with a prediction from intelligent design or creation or whatever? And his prediction was, I think we'll find a bigger Anomalocarid someday. I was like, what? Your argument is that we'll find a bigger example of a known group? I mean, that happens all the time, and it's not exactly a novel prediction that might happen. And how would that be specifically predicted by intelligent design, but not anything else? And his answer was like, well, God makes the best version of things before he gets rid of them. I was like, that's what?
Oh, come on. That's a cycle that can't be broken. That goes nowhere. It's nothing. Come on.
I was like, what does that even mean? I just, that imparts like no information to my brain. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and disagree with that because Ceratosaurus is cooler than T-Rex, and T-Rex came later.
Hey, Logical, do you want to do some catching up on those super chats? Have you got them on your screen there, buddy?
Actually, Aimee wanted to get in.
Oh,
here.
okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And yes, if I can, and I do have them. The first one is from Elia Moon for US $10. Can I denounce him as a Southerner? Thank you, Elia.
Let's do that. You, sir, have been denounced as a Southerner in the United States of America. Pack your bags and get the fuck out.
Exactly.
And you can't come to Canada.
And we also have TC Lucas gave us $2 American too. This guy is stupid down to a science, and he's right. And then I have some great comments here too. Mike Bertelson says, I work with a mechanical engineer who is a young earth creationist. Seriously. And then Harry Warp says, it was public schools, note Cobb County Board of Education. And then Ugly German Truth says, those are stickers creation cretins got put on all school books in some of the reddest states in the U.S. Ash Scott says, for evolution to be untrue, you either need to argue that all offspring are perfect clones of their parents, or that God dictates the fate of every living thing. There's no way around that. And Dark Knight Apologetics says, I would like to point out that not all creationists are young earth creationists. Remember, old earth creationism is a thing.
Well, that's definitely true. And I know some people who do things like, I'm an old earth creationist, and I count like theistic evolution under there or something. And my thing for me and my channel is, I'm like, look, I don't care what positions you have theologically, as long as it doesn't require you to reject established science. If you want to believe in God or Buddha or Allah or the moon goddess or what, I don't care. That's fine as far as my channel is concerned. I have personal opinions, but just don't deny the science about it.
Yeah. You got to change the lyrics to that song. I don't care what religious men say. I'm going to follow science. Right?
There you go.
Well, they're I don't know. They're totally different things. To me, science is always how, and religion is always why. I'm less concerned about why myself. But Booleanator, you had a couple things to add, right?
Well, just one. It's a nitpicky thing, and maybe it's the grammar Nazi in me. Evidences is a verb.
Yes.
Evidence, the plural for evidence is evidence.
Right.
And it's not anybody here in this meet. It's that fucking idiot on the fucking video right there.
So I will jump in at one point, and I will say this. So I'm a linguistic descriptivist when it comes to matters of language because, hey, shocker, I'm also sort of a language guy. And the thing is that the determination between count and non-count nouns in language is almost entirely arbitrary. Liquids have a slight tendency to be non-count versus other things, but that's about it. So I actually don't mind this one that much because while it's a variant, being a descriptivist, I go with, well, it's the variant of English that they're using. But it is definitely non-standard. I will give it that.
It bugs me.
It would always be my contention.
I was sorry. I was just the only time I've ever heard it is when someone like a flat earther or a young earth creationist uses it.
It originates in Christian apologetics is why. Christian apologists use that frequently, and that's the standard term in that, I guess, field. I don't know, profession.
So I think if we're going grammatically correct, then surely it's pieces of evidence. Or pieces of evidence.
So the thing with a non-count noun is that you can't pluralize it and you can't count it, but you can give it a counting word that subdivides it into chunks. So you can't have 3 woods and I need 3 more woods to complete this table. You can then say I need 3 more pieces of wood, or I need 3 more or 2x4s of wood, or something like that. And actually, there is a language that all nouns are treated as non-count nouns, and they all have various counting words, and that's Mandarin Chinese. In Mandarin Chinese, if you ever want to specify a quantity of something, no matter what the noun is, you need a counting word for it.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Oh, you got man.
Like I said, I'm also like weirdly a language guy. I don't know. I'm a Renaissance dinosaur.
Calling Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones.
I want to see what this guy's first reason is because I'm curious now.
Yeah. Let's let it run. Let's let it run. We're getting a little bit long-winded, which is always fine, especially on topics like this. But we do want to try to get through at least one video, right?
It never happens.
I know.
It does sometimes, but
okay.
If we promise to watch to the end of his first reason, and then we've got the entire thing we can rip the piss out on just that one reason. Because otherwise, what will happen? We'll get halfway through the reason, and I'll forget what the start of the reason was.
No, I like that.
Let's try.
Yep.
Let's try.
Reason number 1 coming up.
Posed evidences for evolution that simply are not good reasons to believe in evolution. Number 1, vestigial organs. In 1865, a German anatomist named Robert Wiedersheim said that he discovered 185 different useless or virtually useless organs in the body. And he said this was evidence of evolution. In fact, the argument goes that if humans evolved, then they would have had at one time organs that an animal would have used in a certain way, but would no longer be used in that way in the human body, and those organs would begin to atrophy and start to be useless. The problem with this vestigial organ idea is that there are 2 reasons it cannot prove evolution. Number 1, if you did have vestigial organs in your body, that wouldn't prove evolution. You see, evolution has to go from a single-celled organism to a human, and you don't need organs that are decaying and atrophying. You need evolution to produce new organs. We should.
Pause. Kevin?
Okay, I think he very briefly confused evolution with abiogenesis there. Well, not quite, but like evolution from single-celled organism to multi-celled organism, like that's a completely different phase of evolution that we're not even talking about anymore. Also, in the religious context, what the fuck is the point of vestigial organs then? What, God put them in and then said, I don't think so, and then made them smaller?
He definitely went for the angle, trying to bring the layman in on the fact that if you go from less cells to more cells, why would you have useless organs? But that is ridiculous, because any animal that can transition from like water to land and so on and so forth and go through different species and evolutions to get to where we are from the mammals we were at dinosaur level is going to end up with some baggage. What the hell? It's obvious.
Fucking right.
Absolutely. Aimee, you wanted to get in here, right?
Yes, please. I've got some good comments here. Roger Rabbit says, weird, I know. He's talking about young Earth creationism. He said the first one who claimed that, as far as I know, was in the mid-1800s. That would mean current age should be 4,154 or thereabouts. Ugly German Truth says OEC is like the worst of two worlds. Still not really good science, but also against what the Holy Book claims. Yay, pissing off all sides at once. Bo Nielsen says, all Latin-based words are not altered by plural, i.e. data. Ugly German Truth says vestigial does not mean what Buttman thinks it means. It only requires the organ to have lost its original function, not all function.
Right. Let me just say one thing to a young Earth creationist, answer me this. You can look through my telescope on a nice night and see Andromeda. Go. Right? If the Earth is only like 6,000 years old, you ain't seeing outside the galaxy, dude. Explain. No. Come on.
You're not even seeing to the center of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to point out one thing, though. Data is, in fact, the plural form of datum, and it is technically correct in a standard English dialect to say that this datum in a reference to a single point of data.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, yeah, there you go, Latin. Because I mostly remember my Latin declensions, at least in the nominative case.
And I did sort of know that about Latin and plurals, because isn't that the reason that the plural of octopus isn't octopi, because it's Latin? If it were
it's
Greek,
actually the word octopus is actually from Greek, but the word the puss part there is not actually the Latin second declension. It's actually a Greek third declension, and the genitive form is potus.
My poach.
So, or wait, no, that's the nominative plural. The genitive form is goodness.
Pods.
Is it pods?
Harry Warp thinks so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Pods.
Okay. Yeah. A combination of trying to switch between Latin and Greek and creationism and tequila is making my mouth declension a little shaky. Yeah, sorry about that. It's like, oh my goodness. I know it's Greek though, because it comes from the Greek for foot, which, I mean, the word for foot in Greek and Latin are actually cognates because, I mean, they're both Indo-European languages. So, well, they're both Western Indo-European languages.
So interesting. Language evolves. Go figure.
It actually does. And it actually evolves in a way that's very directly analogous to the way that organisms evolve. Yeah. Because in the same way that, like, you can't say, oh, this is the first ever cat or this is the first ever human, you can't really say, oh, this is the first ever German speaker versus the first ever Norwegian speaker versus the first ever Faroese speaker. It just doesn't work that way.
No, the best you can do is pin down when a certain region kind of unified the speak, and then you can say, okay, this is when that period or whatever you want to label it as goes then. That's about the best you can do, right?
And even then it's going to be iffy, because one of the things is just like defining species is tricky. Defining language is actually really tricky. Like, how many languages exist in Scandinavia? We know how many languages are counted based on like government forms, but it's actually not that clear from a linguistic standpoint that all of those are separate languages.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Kevin needs in. Yep. Good.
Well, I got a couple people on the buzzer here. Before I get to them, though, I'm so sorry, guys. Apparently, it's Pip Parrot's video, or it's Pip Parrot's birthday in the chat.
Oh, well, happy birthday!
Oh, yay!
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Pip!
Happy birthday, Pip.
Here's some chocolate for you.
Yay!
Happy birthday to you. There you go.
I always wait for you to bust out into "Happy Birthday, Mr. President." But at some point back there, I heard a sarcastic barman. You wanted in, right, sir?
Yes, please. I was going to point out, if we're going to talk about vestigial organs, do we know what early chicken embryos and early human embryos both have in common? We both have tails and we both have slits for gills. We obviously don't have the gills, but we have the slits there ready that then fade as we obviously mature and become babies and then are born. But they're both throwbacks from when obviously we used to have gills and big tails and live underwater. So why, if it's a magical being in the sky that's created us or an intelligent design, would he bother putting that in there?
Yeah. Actually, you can... If you look at when embryos start to diverge noticeably from each other in terms of development, that maps on very closely to the actual both genetic and character-based trees of life that you get. So, for instance, say humans and chickens and salamanders all diverge around the same place, which is basically when you start getting to the point where limb buds are going to be developing soon. Then you start to get the salamanders go and off and hatch, whereas chickens and humans keep on developing. They both get limb buds. The limb buds grow about the same sort of bones, but then at right around the time when the digits start to develop, then the chicken starts to develop differently than the human. And from that point on, they develop very differently. But then if you were to say compare a human to, say, a dolphin, they actually continue developing the same way for a while. They get the same number of digits. They get the same basic tail anatomy, hip structure, shoulder girdle, same basic skull bones start getting in place. But then as you start getting to the point where we're going to actually determine how big the limbs are and the proportions on the skull bones, and they diverge again, but humans keep developing the same way as, say, a rhesus monkey, up until you get to the point where a human resorbs the tail, and then humans develop the same way as, say, a gorilla, basically until they're born. The only big difference in the different ape anatomies until they're born is like arm proportion, slight variation in hip shape, and skull size.
Nice.
Yeah, if you look at a baby chimpanzee, other than having long arms, they look almost exactly like, and a flat nose, they look almost exactly like a human baby.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, except for all the hair.
Actually, even then, some chimpanzees are born with extremely little hair, and also some baby humans are born with what's called lanugo, which is actually a hairy coating that normally falls off before birth, but doesn't always.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, yeah, humans actually develop a coat of fur in embryo, and then usually shed it before they're born. Maybe that's a vestigial trait too, there, buddy, on the screen.
May I just jump in real quick?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes, please. I just wanted to read a super chat from Digital Demonic Davros, who just gave us Australian $2. He says, appendix, why can it be removed and not be a problem?
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. It's not a very intelligent design, is it?
Right.
Nope.
And the thing is, he's going to make the argument that if it has a function, it's not vestigial, but that's just not true. A vestigial organ is a reduced form of an organ that had a particular function in an ancestor, and it no longer serves that function. So you could actually say that human inner ear bones are actually vestigial gills if you want to. They're reduced, and they no longer serve for gas exchange. They have taken on a new function, and they're very important. But technically, they could count as vestigial gills. Well, gill arches.
Right.
Because that's the structure they're derived from in the, basal chordate is they were gill arches, because they developed from those gill arches that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Interesting. And I don't understand the Streamlabs either, so someone's going to have to explain it to me too. But Logical Troglodyte, you wanted to add in here, right?
Yes, sir. It's interesting that Davros brought up the appendix because I was going to do the same thing. Now, in my profession, from time to time, I have to attempt to see things through my client's eyes and ask things for clarification. So allow me to do that for a moment here. Let's pretend that this gentleman was sitting in my office and talking to me about this. My next clarification would be for vestigial organs. Let's take a look at the appendix, the most well-known one. So from his point of view, we have an all-loving, all-knowing God who thinks of us as his children, himself as our Father. So he's going to, in his ultimate mercy and love, put a ticking time bomb in our guts that 55% of the time will explode. I want to know why.
It's a potential reset button.
So the actual creationist argument seems to be because God used a common design with other mammals, and apparently he was unable to just completely get rid of it because it was in the common design. I find that profoundly unsatisfying. Like you're positing that this body was designed by an omnipotent, omniscient creator to be effective at what it does.
But somehow he's like a junior programmer who can't remove an old line of code from a template?
Right. Basically, yeah, he just can't get rid of the legacy code, even though no one's using the legacy code.
Yeah. That's wild. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, like I said, it's an extremely unsatisfying answer from my standpoint.
Absolutely.
At least when a programmer does it, he can use it for backwards compatibility. What's our excuse?
Right, exactly. Because, I mean, you could say, oh, it's for backwards compatibility. It's like, okay, well, I'm probably not going to say that humans are, reproductively compatible with, like, proboscis monkeys. So I don't think it actually really serves that function for backwards compatibility. So, sorry, but that's not going to cut it for this one. Because if you could then say, oh, well, distantly related organisms can create hybrids. Well, okay, then fine, sure, I guess. But they can't, though. That's the problem.
Right.
Well, should we see if he's got anything more thought-provoking on the vestigial organs?
Yes.
I wouldn't count on that.
Find wings that are almost ready to allow organisms to fly that can't yet fly. We should find new visionary optical connections in living organisms that don't have them. We should see things adding information, not losing genetic information. And the second problem with the vestigial organ argument is that 185 list of vestigial organs.
Well, I mean, Dino already covered the point of them still being actually useful with the gills example.
Right.
But all these things he's saying, like, it shouldn't be adding things, or it shouldn't be removing things. It should be adding things. Why shouldn't it be removing things? Evolution it's not progress. It's adaptation, and adaptation can mean we need to get rid of something that's no longer useful.
Right. And of course, one of the examples that he pulls out, like, we don't see any wings that are almost bird wings, but that can't quite take flight. Absolutely, we do. I'm sorry, have you ever heard of Velociraptor? Because that thing, despite what you might have seen in Jurassic Park, had wings. However, there is no evidence that flight is ancestral to Dromosauria, or Dromasauridae, depending on exactly how specific we're going to be. But the thing is that there were actually gliding members of Dromasauridae, like the Microraptorine dromaeosaurs. They could glide. They couldn't quite fly. But then we get to things like Enantiornis and the other Enantiornithines, where they have basically bird wings. They probably weren't good flyers, but they could fly. Mm-hmm. And then we get into things like, Ornithurae, where they're basically modern birds, but not all of them are technically within the crown group, and they could definitely fly. In fact, we actually have fossil Anseriforms, which is basically waterfowl, in the Jurassic period. Like, we have this whole sequence that he just said we don't have. It's like, no, we do. You just aren't looking for it. Like, you just haven't researched this.
Or maybe didn't even want to.
Oh, well, I'm sure he doesn't want to, because there's no point for him. He has his ideas, and it doesn't matter what the evidence is.
I got some buzzes backed up here. Before I go to that, I just want to point out, because you mentioned Velociraptor. I just got to say, I love the fact that despite the fact that Jurassic Park's Velociraptors are entirely inaccurate, it's almost completely derailed by the fact that Dr. Grant describes them completely accurately when he says they're like a big chicken, and then you see them and they're not like a big chicken.
Yeah,
right. That actually reminds me. I heard a paleontologist say, Abby asked, what were the most accurate dinosaurs in Jurassic Park? And he said, well, the pelicans at the end were really accurate.
And,
I love it.
First up here for the buzzers, we had Logical Troglodyte. What's up, sir?
Yeah, you kind of touched on this a little bit, Kevin, and I'd like to go a little deeper into it. People are, like the young Earth creationist, mistake the idea that evolution is an upward spiral into bigger, better, best, more perfect. And it doesn't work that way. It's about survivability of traits. If I live long enough to pass on my genes to my offspring, my traits will then get passed on to them and maybe hopefully to their offspring. And in general, the assumption is that those traits help the organism to be more survivable in its environment, to hunt better for food, whatever. But that isn't always the case. Sometimes bad traits keep getting passed on. That's why we have a such thing known as genetic disease. So this assumption that it's an upward spiral into perfection is itself an inappropriate way to think about evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it might even be a problem with the word evolution itself, because it sounds like moving forward when it's not really. It's moving in the most appropriate direction. Steaming Cup of Reason, you also wanted to add to this, correct?
Yeah, I did want to kind of agree with what our guest was talking about. Vestigial organs can either be utterly useless, they could be completely lost or disappear, or they can be repurposed in some way. And Roger Rabbit in the chat pointed out a very good point. The emu, the ostrich, the penguin. I mean, these are perfect examples.
Oh, absolutely. All of them have forelimbs that are clearly derived wings that no longer function for flight. And they're all sort of crappy at what they do actually do. Like the penguin is a kind of an iffy paddle. For ostriches and emus and such, their wings are basically just stabilizers. Mm-hmm. But they're not great at any of it.
Yeah, and then there's the kiwi, which I believe doesn't have wings at all.
Yeah, actually, I think the kiwi actually lacks a shoulder girdle, if I remember correctly. I'm going to double check on that. I think they might actually lack a shoulder girdle, like a forelimb girdle entirely. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
But each of their changes,
any wings at all, right? Functional or not.
Yeah. I mean, but the changes that these different animals have gone through serve a purpose for the environment they're living in.
Yeah.
And like the penguin has no need to fly. First of all, it's too damn big anyway. And secondly, its diet is underwater. So, of course, it makes sense for its wings to turn into flippers.
Oh, they do. But I see why I thought the kiwis didn't. It's because their entire shoulder girdle is smaller than any one of their ribs.
That makes sense then.
Wow.
Yeah, and they have a ridiculous bowed humerus that's obviously useless, and an elbow joint that doesn't look like it can move, and it exists inside the body wall anyway. So, but if you ever want to feel bad for a bird, go look up pregnant kiwi and look at the size of that egg.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Oh my
I already have the image in my head. That's beautiful.
So basically, a kiwi chicks hatch at about like 60% the size of an adult kiwi. So,
ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch is right.
Okay, we just got a comment from Demonic Davros that I need to ask Dino in a moment. But before we do, I'm going to get through the buzzers. Bullionator, you're up next.
Well, I was going to bring up this idea that genetic information is only lost.
Oh, yeah.
That's not the case. Sometimes isn't there like 3 kinds of genetic modifications or mutations. There's the removal of a sequence or a section, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the duplication, which would be adding information. Even though it's the same information twice, it's still adding it, and then that can later be transposed into another I forget, another sequence, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, information can be added by evolution. It's not impossible for it to be added.
So the only way I've ever seen to actually objectively quantify the information in the genome is to just transcribe the base pairs in some way, like have a code for them, right? And technically you only need 2 bits to describe any one base pair because, there's only 4 of them. And if you count to 4 in binary, you go from 0, 0. If you start at 0 and you count up to 3, you get up to 1, 1. You only need 2 bits. Okay. Now you could say, well, you need another bit for like chromosome breaks. Okay, sure. 3 bits per base pair plus another one to specify. There you go. Whatever. But the thing is that if you want to record a particular organism's genome, then deletion mutations do in fact reduce that total amount of information. But if you're trying to record all the genetic variations in a species genome, then even deletions require you to re-record at least that chromosome as a new variant, which means that you still have to add a whole new chunk of data. So by some definitions, even deletion mutations actually increase information. It's one of the reasons why no one uses information theory to talk about genetics except creationists who don't understand information theory or genetics.
Exactly. Kevin, did you have buzzers up?
We had one more from Aimee.
Yes, please, if I could. I've got some good comments here. Yeah, Ugly German True says to form these traits in development. So where does it come from if not evolution? And then Ash Scott says, wait, the appendix has a load of functions. It's just not solely responsible for any process essential for life. Ugly German True says, what's the name in your skeleton? Squamate and quadrate bone. Humans have lost these, and now they are the stirrup, anvil, and hammer in our inner ear. Quit asking me to sprinkle them titties says he puts a ticking time bomb there because he loves us and we're special. Ugly German True says another such non-design vestigial trait is our broken vitamin C production cascade. Weirdly enough, it has the same mistake preventing it to work as other monkeys and primates. Quit asking me to sprinkle them titties says God gave me a gallbladder, then filled it with stones and nearly killed me because he loves you.
That sucks, man. I'm sorry about that. That is rough.
No doubt.
And actually, I want to point out about the appendix that, yeah, it has a bunch of functions. It has immune system functions. It can serve as a sort of reservoir during times of, stress on your gut bacteria. Some of them can hide out in there to repopulate. I mean, it has a bunch of things it does, but the thing is that it's a really, really shitty place to ferment plant matter, which is what the organ does in organisms that use it for its basal function.
Was that pun intentional?
Yes.
I was going to ask.
And then before we go back to the video, I wanted to touch on what Davros said a moment ago. I got the thing in Discord. I'm checking it out now, and I am fascinated by the giant cassowary. I think it's one of the coolest animals ever. And he was saying in the chat, he said something to the extent of it doesn't need wings; it can kill you without them. And said
yes,
that he said, I don't remember the exact wording, but he was saying that it may be a descendant of raptors. Is that the case?
So it's a little bit tough to say exactly where. I guess Pan-Aves, if you want to be okay. So exactly what counts as a bird is a little bit complicated, but all of the things that are closer to modern birds than they are to, say, Velociraptor are either on the side of Deinonychus, which would make Deinonychus very, very bird-like, or they might come a little bit before the branch between the Deinonychosaurs and the Dromaeosaurs.
Yes.
It's iffy. So right now we can say dromaeosaurs are not birds, but if you go for the sort of larger group, which is called Deinonychosauria, which includes Deinonychus and Troodon and their most recent common ancestor, we don't know if birds are Deinonychosaurs. They might be. They also might not be. They might actually be a branch that branch just basal to Deinonychosauria. But Deinonychosaurs are definitely the non-avian dinosaurs that are closest to birds.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Every now and I swear, since starting to chat with you more, Dino, I've seen like more stuff online about birds being dinosaurs, and
it's because Google is watching us. That's because Google is watching us.
Oh yes, probably. But it fascinates me to no end. I saw a chicken kill a mouse the other day, and it looked just like a T-Rex, and it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, people don't know that about chickens. They don't just like people like don't really realize what chickens eat. Like because you see people like throw them seeds or whatever. But chickens will eat mice, they'll eat worms, they'll eat bugs. If it will fit down a chicken's throat, there's a chance that chicken's going to try and eat it.
We used to have chickens at my old place in North Wales, and literally the ground around the main enclosure for them was just picked dry. They would have everything. We wouldn't need to worry about mice or rats in the back garden getting into the chicken area to eat the chicken food, because once one chicken starts pecking at it, it'll fight back at one. But once 4 or 5 chickens start going at it, no, not a chance. And we had 30 chickens.
Yep. I've seen a chicken steal a mouse kill from a cat.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think we're probably thinking of the exact same video. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the cat's about to pounce and the chicken just swoops in and is like, nope, that's my mouse.
It comes out of nowhere. It was amazing.
Yeah, so chickens are vicious hunters if you're small enough.
Mm-hmm. Actually, honestly, if we could find that, I would love to play that on stream because I think it's fucking great. But also, Logical Troglodyte, you wanted to add something here, right?
Yeah, I wanted to address Demonic Davros. He asked some of the greatest questions, and he's also got a great sense of humor. And I'm pretty sure he was joking, but I'd like to address it anyway. 5-6-ish minutes ago, he asks me about whether or not cognitive dissonance is a vestigial trait for the flat earther and anti-vax dummies. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to assume he was joking, and it's great. But I wanted to point out that people tend to misuse the word cognitive dissonance. Short answer, no, in all seriousness. But long answer for that, well, you have to wait until the new fledgling network that we're starting. We are going to have a show where I will actually talk about that in detail. Why do people use that phrase inappropriately, and what does it really mean? So anyway, a little plug in for a future show.
That sounds
absolutely cool. Well, we're 3 minutes in and it's an hour into the show. Shall we play a little more video?
Yeah, let's keep going. I'm sure we'll get through all 6 reasons.
Well, we might. It's worth a shot. Let's push.
It began to dwindle very rapidly when we started looking more closely into them, and it became 180 and then 175. And then, do you know, as we look more into the body, we realize that those vestigial organs were very useful, many of them extremely useful. Number 2. The idea of homology. We're told that similarity proves ancient ancestry. And what I simply mean by that is we're told that because humans have similar physical...
Okay, because there, what you're doing there is correlation without causation. Similarity can imply ancestry. It doesn't need to, though. Right. Good example is something you taught me, Dino, that because I had thought I knew that Ceratosaurus was a earlier large theropod than the T-Rex, but they're completely unrelated species.
Yeah, their common ancestor would probably actually have been the common ancestor of all theropods.
Okay.
Or possibly, if Herrerasaurus is truly a theropod, then it would have been the ancestor of all non-Hererasaurid theropods. Because there's a little bit of question about Herrerasaurus and Hererasaurids, because they're weird. They're sort of theropody, but it's not positive that they're theropods. So yeah, one of the things about homology, though, is there are ways to check to see if similar structures are truly homologous. And one of the things you can do is you can check embryological development. So, for instance, the reason that we know that the bones in a whale that attach pelvic floor and muscles having to do with penis eversion and things like that in whales, the reason we know that these things are hips 100% is because when they form proximal to the anterior limb buds in the embryo. Those are the bones that in all other embryos of land mammals go on to form the pelvic girdle. In whales, they do not form a girdle. We can also tell with other things. For instance, the shape of the vertebrae changes at around the point in the body going from front to back where you get these hip bones, which means that whales still have sacral vertebrae, even though they don't come anywhere near the hip bone. And then after the hip bone, you get distinct caudal vertebrae that once again have ventral processes on them, whereas the rest of the vertebrae don't, which is another trait you see in other mammals. Caudal vertebrae tend to have this little ventral process that comes down, whereas the thoracic, cervical, and lumbar vertebrae don't, and the caudal vertebrae don't either. And so you can check these things. You can check the underlying anatomy. Why is it that bird wings aren't homologous as wings with bat wings? Well, because they form the flight structures entirely differently. The flight structure of a bird wing is composed almost entirely of feathers, whereas in a bat, it's almost entirely skin. Whereas in a pterosaur, it was skin and muscle fibers as well as a lot of cartilage. It's, again, a different anatomy. But they're all homologous as forelimbs because they all have the same bones.
Yes, right. I just put a question from a comment from the chat that's definitely for you, 100% in the Google chat there. If you want to check it out, that's totally yours to read.
Basically, the debate is aves a branch of Deinonychosauria, a branch of Dromaeosauria, or their own root branch? So I would do one thing is it's not Dromaeosauria. It would actually be the Troodontids, not the Dromaeosaurs. So it's right now, it's pretty well established that if aves is not basal to Deinonychosauria, they're almost certainly closer to Troodontids. I don't honestly remember all the reasons why that has been the sort of conclusion. So, but it's a fairly minor distinction. Dromaeosauria and the Troodontids are very, very closely related. Basically, the big difference is in tooth shape. And Troodontids tended to be more gracile, whereas Dromaeosaurs tended to be more robust. But that's not even a hard and fast rule because Microraptorine Dromaeosaurs were at least as gracile as Troodons, and in some cases more so. So it's, we're getting well into the weeds of holistic beat 'em up. Yeah. Like we're getting to the area where I'm like, oh, these are crazy little details. I don't know.
Now we had a couple of buzzes here. I have a really quick question though. The two people that are buzzed right now, did you guys do that like just a few moments ago, or have you been waiting?
Been waiting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So there's something wrong with this browser.
No, it's not you. It's the technology there, dude. Dapper.
Yeah.
It looked like there was no one buzzed, and I was like, no one's buzzed in a while. So I scroll down, and suddenly there's two names there. Anyway, Steaming Cup of Reason. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick point about this idiot's claim of similarity. He's so full of shit. His eyes have turned brown. I mean, when I look at my oldest brother, and then I look at Dick Dawson, I see the same long-haired hippie. Does that make Dick my cousin? Fucking idiot.
Oh, that's funny. It's very true. It's very true, though.
Isn't it Slick Dick, Slick Dick, the hippie man?
Not much hippie here, but a little bit of hair, but not much hippie. Let me tell you.
I don't know. Sarcastic Barman, you wanted to get in here as well, right? Maybe.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Something that is a similarity that actually shows a general form of evolution that we came from the same sort of starting point. Something like the laryngeal nerve, which comes off the vagus nerve, which in fish, it's a nice, straight, easy path for them. You get to humans, and it's a bit funny because it goes around the heart to come back up. You get to something like a giraffe, and it goes from the brain all the way down, then back up to basically just below their head. It's bloody stupid. But it's a throwback from when we started as fish in the sea, and then we slowly evolved that this thing's just gone, well, I've always looped around the heart. It's not a horrible thing that I loop around the heart. There's no evolutionary benefit for it to be unlooped around the heart, and there's no way that would sort of change in an evolutionary scale or something like that. But if something was designing it and making it as that animal, they go, well, that's just fucking stupid. Yep. I'm not going to go to Birmingham via fucking Glasgow.
Well, imagine what that would do for a Brachiosaurus.
Yeah.
I mean, the Brachiosaurus, if it had a recurrent laryngeal nerve, which it might have just been like, you know what, screw it, I don't need to make vocalizations. That's a possibility. But assuming it had one, which is the more likely option, it would have been, 60 feet long or something. It could have taken a full few seconds between the brain making the choice to make a vocalization and the animal actually being able to vocalize.
That is mental.
Wow. That's really interesting.
It's actually one of the reasons why giraffes have very few vocalizations. They basically have a low rumble and sort of a bark, and that's about it. They don't make like mating calls or growl. They do almost nothing when it comes to their voices.
Instead, they swing their heads at each other. Steamy Cup Reason, you had something else there, buddy?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add that I think we can actually witness a little bit of evolution happening in medical conditions, and that is the fact that we all display symptoms of a new disease called Shillitis, because we all have the same fucking problem with mute buttons.
That has got to be like diagnosable at this point. Every episode, there's one of us just doesn't notice we're not muted or something. It's usually
absolutely.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do it.
Well, I've just had fucking problems with internet. Period. So hopefully I'm all right now. But I'm downstairs in the kitchen.
Well, as long as no one pulls an audible Anthony Riley, that's the real thing. If you're gonna pee on stream, mute yourself.
Yeah, piss in a toilet, not a glass, man.
Yeah. If anyone's gonna go to toilet on screen, it'll be this fucking drunk monkey, all right? and then I don't know where it'll end up.
Shit be flying! Look out! Hit the deck! It's just like it's nuclear war days. Everybody, duck and cover.
So when I was in the Navy, I know a guy who filled up 3.5 boots of other people's boots with his own piss when he came home or came back to the ship drunk one night.
Oh wow! Popular night.
Yeah, that guy got in a fair bit of trouble. So he had to buy them new boots. He had he couldn't go out with like fewer than like 5 people or something, which meant he just didn't go out. He wasn't allowed to drink for like 6 months or some crap like that. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something about me, right? If I throw shit at you, it doesn't mean that I don't like you. Everyone is game, all right? So don't be offended if you get covered in shit.
You got 2 eyes and a nose, you're a target.
Absolutely.
I heard Aimee wants to get in here.
Go ahead.
Yes, please. Elia Moon gave us a super chat for $5 American. Thank you, Elia. She said correlation does not imply causation, and he's a dipshit.
Well said.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well said. Yeah.
What do you say we hit some more stupid?
Let's see if he can get past a single fallacy for this point.
Characteristics to certain animals that proves that they evolved from animals. Well, similarity doesn't prove evolution at all. In fact, you could see things that are similar and you would realize that those similarities are often caused by a common designer. Suppose there were a supernatural intelligent designer and he created a world where many organisms would need to drink the same water, eat the
Pause. Yeah, there you fucking. That's the fucking similarity. Nothing about designer whatsoever. They come from a similar environment.
Right. Exactly. And the thing is, Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
All I was going to say was I reiterate my bit about how stupid it'd be for a nerve to go 60 foot in a fucking dinosaur with a common designer. Yeah, that was it.
And the thing is, if it's common environment, common design, therefore homology, or things that appear homologous, then we would expect organisms that inhabit similar environments and have similar niches to have increases in homology, when instead we actually see increases in homology independent of this on a large scale. So for instance, like you look at Prionosuchus, right? It was basically what happens when you take a salamander and turn it into a crocodile. But its anatomy is significantly different from an actual crocodile. And the actual anatomy of a crocodile is significantly different from a phytosaur, which is more like a crocodile than it is like a salamander, but it's still quite different. And so we have these animals that are inhabiting the same niches, but they have extremely different anatomies. And to take it extremely broad, if you look at modern birds that go after small to medium-sized fish, well, during the Carboniferous period, that niche was taken up by griffin flies, which almost look exactly like dragonflies, except that they're as big as your arm. There's like no homology there, but they have pretty much the same niche. So if you actually want to say that the reason homology exists is common design for common environment, then you would expect that common niches would have common homologies, but they don't.
It's a bit like, us monkeys and you fucking humans. I mean, obviously we monkeys are the smart ones. I mean, look what you fuckwits are doing to the planet.
Hey, humans are monkeys too.
Obviously, I mean, you're fucked, Dino. I don't know what you're doing, but
I've been around. I've been around for 150 million years. I'm doing okay.
Yeah, man. Fair play to you.
Jutmonkthedrunk, I have watched the cats run straight into walls, man. They're come on.
Huh?
Don't challenge monkeys. There was a video on Facebook the other day of a monkey using a stone, which he had knocked into a point to break the fucking glass on his enclosure.
That's so awesome.
Fucking wicked, man.
That's terrifying.
I tell you what.
That is terrifying.
We'll be going to the moon soon. You watch.
Well, you've already been to space, so yeah.
Hey, you know what? Monkeys have already walked on the moon.
all over again.
I'm not going to let anyone tell me. Monkeys have already walked on the moon because I'm not going to let anyone tell me that humans aren't monkeys.
Yeah, there you go.
Look, if a capuchin monkey is a monkey and a rhesus macaque is a monkey, then goddamn it, chimpanzees are monkeys and so are humans. Because all humans and chimpanzees are way closer to rhesus macaques than rhesus macaques are to capuchin monkeys.
I tell you what, I could listen to this dinosaur all day. I mean, you've seen a lot over the years, haven't you, mate?
Oh, yeah. I mean, comets, ice ages, mammoths, cavemen, including, logical troglodyte. Yeah, I've seen your kind before.
More video.
Yeah, it might be time for more video. Otherwise, I might have to get some more tequila. So let's go.
Yeah.
Somebody say tequila.
Oh, is Logical up?
Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
I just have two minor objections to this last little clip. One, he keeps using the word proof.
Yeah.
Science doesn't prove anything, it provides evidence for. But at the same time, he's also presupposing the existence of a supernatural divine being and saying that these similarities prove the divine being. Now, I can show you the designer of two similar cars and how they're connected to the same designer. I can show you two similar buildings who are, and that they are similar because they were designed by the same structural engineer. I'm not an atheist, so I don't presuppose the non-existence of God. I'm an agnostic, so I just don't know. And I'm kind of apathetic about it, so I can kind of care less. But if he's going to try to say that this is proof of God, I'm sorry, you're going to have to show me God. Like I can show you the structural engineer and the designer that made the cars. And until you can do that, then I think you need to drop the presuppositions and let's just look at this from a scientific lens. Did I kill the chat?
Yeah, no, that's fair to me. I mean, especially in a scientific discussion.
I foresee a problem there. I don't see them letting go of the presuppositions.
Oh, they won't. It's the entire point.
God.
More video?
Yeah, let's get into it some, because we're not too far through the video yet. So let's see if we can at least try here.
Same kinds of food, walk over the same types of terrain. What would happen? Well, obviously, he would use similarities, similar structures to accomplish his goals. Similarity doesn't prove common ancestry. In fact, similarity argues more.
Okay, this is actually just a quick plug, and I know I'm being an ass, but there was a Gibbon skeleton on there, and Wednesday I'm going to have a hangout with Cheshire Vic and Erica from the channel Gutsick Gibbon. So if you want to see me and two of my favorite people that I've met on YouTube, do a hangout, and we're probably going to be super bitchy to some creationists or something. Come watch that on Wednesday. Sorry, that was literally it. I just had to show myself for a second.
That's good. Right on. Okay, let's fire right back into it and see what we can get through. Let's see.
More for a common creator than anything else. Supposed evidence for evolution number 3, the fossil record. You know what we're told is that you can look into the fossil record and you can find proof that organisms evolved over millions of years. Supposedly we're told that you can find transformational organisms.
Transformational. I mean, at this point, just call them missing links, right? I mean, you're already getting it wrong. You might as well go all the way.
First of all, nobody is told that we can see individual organisms evolve over millions of years, because that's what you just said, and that's not how that works. And second, someone in the chat, who was it? It was Shadow Falcon. Is that their name?
Yeah.
They said something a while ago, which was basically, I hate when they say we're told, because we're not told, we're taught. You were told because you have a conspiracist mindset that says it's me versus them. The rest of us, we were engaged in a discussion because that's how a community works.
Well said, man.
Well, and one of the things is there are creationist organizations out there who have defined what they would expect from a transitional organism. And then that exists. Like when creationists try to offer, like when creationists offer what they would call or what would meet the definition for a transitional species, they usually come up with some variant of, well, it would be a species that would have a mosaic of, anatomical features from both a primitive group and an advanced group with some features that are sort of intermediate between them. It's like, well, okay, here's like 300 of them. And like, nah, nope, those are all their own thing for reasons.
Reasons, no doubt.
Okay, sure, just deny actual brute facts of reality, whatever. I mean, I can't stop you, but it's super stupid.
Sounds so flat Earth, it makes me sick.
Well, actually, I make that point sometimes, that there's only a difference of degree between flat Earth and young Earth creationism, and it's not a big one.
No. In this modern day and age, I think it's literally about 10 or 12 channels on the TV.
Most flat earthers, young Earth creationists anyway.
There seems to be not a big focus on how old the Earth is, so I'm not sure that most of them are young Earth creationists. I don't know that I've heard enough of them talk about that topic to really say, but they're almost all creationists, because it's hard to believe in a flat Earth and not have that be a supernatural creation, because it's just so illogical to have been a thing that formed naturally.
Yeah.
So I will say they're at least all creationists, or at least all that I'm aware of, but I don't know what kind of time frames they're talking about, because most of them don't talk about much outside of historical times. You get like people like Flat Earth Aussie Jesus, who says like, oh, in the prehistoric times, the giants dug out the Grand Canyon to make the moon.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Oh, I also specifically asked him about dinosaurs. He said that if they exist, so he's yeah, he's iffy on the existence of dinosaurs in the first place. But if they exist, or existed, I guess, they were genetically engineered bioweapons created by the ancients to fight prehistoric wars. I was just like, all right, dude, sure, why not? I mean, if you're going to say the Earth is flat, then sure, yeah.
Everything he says is like a ripoff of a bad action movie. Like, how many Jurassic Park movies have had that subplot where they want to weaponize the dinosaurs?
I know.
Logical Troglodyte, you wanted to get in there, right?
Yeah, I'm gazing into my little crystal ball here, and I'm going to make a prediction that this moron is going to actually say something like, if humans evolved from apes, show me the parent organism. And I've heard young Earth creationists actually say something that incredibly stupid. And yes, although humans and mountain gorillas and chimpanzees share a common ancestor way back in the day, that parent organism no longer exists because guess what? It evolved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it turned into genus Pan and genus Homo. Well, genus like Australopithecus, which then diverged into Homo.
My favorite one is, if we evolved from monkeys, why are there still monkeys? Because they take the concept that, all right, yeah, we evolved from this monkey here, but why is this monkey still here? It's like, no, we didn't evolve from that monkey. We evolved from like a pre-formed whatever monkey,
right?
Which has now come down and they've all changed. But no, they don't like that.
Well, it's exactly the same statement as saying to someone like, "Oh, your ancestors are German, huh? Well, then how come they're still Germans?" It's like, well, because they didn't. They're still people in Germany. I mean, they have common ancestry. Your ancestors went off to someplace else, which gave you German ancestry, but other people related to your ancestors just stuck around in goddamn Germany. Like, what the hell is the problem?
Exactly. You know, if Charizard evolves from Charmeleon, then why are there still Charmeleons out there?
Oh, I don't want to get into the Pokemon version of evolution.
Yeah, the Pokemon version of evolution, which happens within individual lifetimes, which is great.
Right. It's really more like ontogenetic stages in an organism's life, which is a thing. You know, organisms change their shape as they age, from embryos through to neonates, through to, you know, juveniles and whatnot. But yeah, calling it evolution was I'm not a big fan of that, even though I do like the Pokemon games. I mean, I
wonder if maybe it's a translation, like if the original word in Japanese wasn't quite the same as evolution.
I don't actually care, because the Nintendo's localization staff is usually really good. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Chesh is in the chat. Hi, Chesh.
Hey, Chesh. Oh, hey,
Chesh, how's it going?
Chesh is, like I said, she's one of the people who's going to be with me on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, if I'm remembering correctly. And if I'm not, check my channel, because I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. Never mind Wednesday. That's not true. I know at 2 p.m. Eastern, I'm on debunking a creationist thing about, are dragons actually dinosaurs and vice versa? The answer is no. But yeah, they're gonna go through all sorts of these dragon legends and be like, oh, see, look, that totally describes a baryonyx. It's like, does it though?
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, one of my favorite ones was when Kent Hovind said that Grendel from Beowulf was a T-Rex.
Oh my fucking god!
No, Grendel's a fucking energy being on the holodeck. Get it straight.
So actually, he said, now if you read this in the Old English, and I was like, well, that's an interesting thing, because you know what I can do? I can read it in the fucking Old English. So let's pull it up. And you know what it says in the Old English? It says that Grendel was a descendant of Cain, who's the same one who slew his brother Abel. So unless Cain was a Tyrannosaurus Rex, I don't think Grendel was either. So you know what? I'll tell you what, Ken. If you think that Adam and Eve conceived a Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Tyrannosaurus Rex popped out of Eve's vagina, then I want to have a completely different discussion with you, Kent, because that sounds like some really interesting shit right there. I want to know more about your ideas.
I always thought Grendel was Angelina Jolie. Logical Troglodyte.
No, Grendel's mother.
Oh, yes, that's right.
No, actually, you were when I was talking to you in the background. It was.
I see it now.
No, I hadn't buzzed in. But all I was gonna say at this point, now that I am actually saying something or words or something shit, is God, if this fucker starts screwing with classic literature, I'm gonna blow a gasket. If you think it was bad when Riley had his thesis,
Oh my God, Kevin, I love your analysis of that, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
much appreciated.
It was amazing.
Yeah, so good, so good.
Every time an episode came out, I was just like, "Oh yes, DeadKennedyInSpace is continuing the Riley thesis."
Oh, to do it all the way through, like every page, and now I'm thinking maybe I should go back to it and just finish it off.
I mean, it would be fun to even just go through all the red lines.
Yeah, it shouldn't take very long. It's not a particularly long piece of paper.
No,
that reminds me. I was thinking about reading Kent Hovind's thesis as just like an audiobook, like just putting it out there.
I speed read it in 15 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kent.
Exactly.
Oh, what a classic line.
Well, so the thing is, he has not claimed that that's actually his thesis. So if he wants to strike it or anything, he's going to have to claim that it's actually his thesis, which he doesn't want to because he knows how embarrassingly bad it is.
Right. The opening line should have been, "Hello, my name is Kent, and I'm a conspiraholic."
Was it written in crayon?
I mean, the only copies I have available are PDFs that are photo scanned from what looks like a typewriter.
Wow.
I found it really interesting. I found it really interesting that it was exactly 99 pages. Not 100, 99. It's almost like your thesis has to be within this number of pages.
33. Oh, man.
Jens Van Broekhoven wants me to do it, and I mean, he's one of my patrons, so I might have to.
There you go, then.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, should we get a little bit more video in?
Yes.
We're starting to push time, right? Should we get a little more in, and then we can, we might have to make this a two-parter by the looks of it.
Hey, if you guys want me back, I'll be happy to come back.
Yeah, it's looking like we're gonna have to, let alone want. I know we do, absolutely. So, but Tatty, do you want to throw a little bit more our way, and we see what we can do here? Sound good, Kevin?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That prove this animal evolved into some other kind of animal. But if you were to take that seriously and you were to go to the fossil record, what you would find is that those transformational fossils are missing on a grand scale. In fact, evolutionist Mark Ridley stated that no real evolutionist, whether gradualist or punctuationist, uses the fossil record as evidence in favor of the theory of evolution as opposed to special creation. Now, why would he say that? Well, he would say that because when you look at the fossil record, you see organisms coming into the fossil record fully formed.
I'm going to take a stab here and guess why he said that. He said that because no evolutionist, no person who studies evolution seriously as their profession is interested in making an argument against creation, because creation is stupid.
Yeah, well, and there's another thing, which is that because creationism involves the possibility of literal magic, there is no set of data which can falsify it.
That's what I mean. There's no argument to have there, right?
Right. It's absolutely impossible to point to a fossil and then say, "Oh, an omnipotent creator couldn't have created this fossil." Well, of course he could. But that doesn't okay, great. He could do literally anything. There is no possible data set that would disconfirm
it's a useless statement. It's a completely useless statement.
There is one person that's being forgotten all this, okay? So I have to give a shout out right now to the mortician, because when this guy's time comes, and who knows when that's going to be, but when it does, the mortician is in a race a race against time, because he's going to have to somehow inject something to support the empty cranial cavity before it collapses. It's going to be a tough job.
Yeah, all the hot air will go away.
Luckily, the dome shape of the hominin cranium is going to give him a little bit of extra time that it wouldn't for something like, say, meet a dinosaur.
Hey, Kevin, you need in here, buddy?
Well, I've got a short list of people here. Sarcastic Barman, you wanted to add in, right?
I did, yeah. I love it when any of these videos, whether it be creationists, flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, anything like that. Sorry, one sec. That's better. They pick this one specific scientist and go, hey, look, this one person that no one's ever heard of has said this, which is fine. Yeah, you're going to get a scientist who might say something, rather than saying, look, I've got these 500 scientists or this entire fucking science department at Berkeley University or something like that. No, I'm going to pick this one because I've gone through all the scientists and cherry-picked the exact phrase I need just to support me, because fuck what all the other scientists said, that one that cherry picks. And I bet that small paragraph, well, sentence that he's in, if you took the paragraph as a whole, would not reinforce that statement, I'm guessing. They tend to be, they cherry picked a small section. Yeah, that one line does it. The line before rules out the line below, and the line after it then rules it out again. But yeah, I'll have that one line, and it's fucking annoying.
Do you know what, as well? If you actually try and search these fucking scientists, you can't even find them anyway.
A lot of them you don't, because they're not majorly published or anything.
That's often true. A lot of times creationists get their quotations from other creationist books, and then they just copy the citation. So what you actually get is this, in some cases, is this chain of quotations that are sometimes subtly wrong, because actually they technically evolve as they go through multiple creationist sources, and the citation is wrong, and it can itself sometimes subtly get even more wrong. So I believe it was Talk Origin like 15 years ago, because I mean that was like the last time the site was updated, has an archive of basically just either essentially untraceable quote mines. They also have like an archive of actual quote mines that you can trace, and it's just ridiculous. And one of the things is you get this thing where it's like creationists love to take quote mines from like 30, 40 years ago. My next video that's coming out, I'm doing it on this this speech someone gave for Answers in Genesis about the Big Bang. And of course, Ken Ham describes him as a historian of geology. I don't know why they picked a historian of geology to give a talk about the Big Bang, but whatever. But anyway, every single one of the quotes that he gives is at least 12 years old, and most of them are in excess of 30 years old. And at one point, he's like, oh, well, you know, back in 2014 or whatever it was, Neil deGrasse Tyson was the host of a show, Cosmos. And here's a quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm like, oh, wow, that's a really recent quote. This actually might be interesting. From his 2007 book. I'm like, God damn it. Like you went back 11 years, because the speech was his talk was given in 2018. It's like you went back 11 years to pull a quote mine out of a book that Neil deGrasse Tyson probably wrote in 2006. Great. Okay, sure.
Yeah, of course. And fun fact, that is exactly what religious flat earthers do when they use the Bible to prove flat earth, by taking a translation of a translation of a translation, and the original, the point isn't there anymore. Aimee, you wanted to get in with some audience interaction, right?
Yes, please. I did. I have some good ones here. 9 O'Clock Hero says, Aleister Crowley said, we can't turn men into frogs yet, but one day science will make it possible. Ash Scott says he's nitpicking tiny details about things he doesn't understand, but he believes a guy survived in a whale's stomach because an invisible giant surrounded by flying musicians was angry at a man-goat. Aaron Massa says, for Dekus and Dapper, Pokemon evolution is more like Flash metamorphosis.
Yeah, no.
That's fair.
Bo Nielsen says, in Danish, evolve and develop is the same word, literally unwind. And then I had a couple more really good ones too. Fantarang says, fully formed. What does that even mean? He thinks evolution doesn't have fully formed things.
Yeah.
Mr. Shigura says, Kyle Butt is proof of evolution. Clearly, he evolved the largest mouth I've ever seen on a human being to accommodate the passage of all that BS out of his face hole.
Which, by the way, congrats to the Non Sequitur show for getting right back into the hands that it should be in.
Oh, yes. Good shout.
Yes, and then Ash Scott says, "Whoever looked at a fossil and said this is a half-formed organism, that's like digging half a hole. There's no such thing. A hole is a hole."
Actually, I'm going to say there are some half-formed fossils. They're called fossil embryos. It's a thing.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the closest you get, because the thing is, like, any adult organism is going to be fully formed. Like, what would it mean to not be fully formed? I guess you could say, well, actually, maybe you could say the axolotl. It's a salamander from Mexico City. Maybe that's a half-formed organism because it never makes it out of the sort of larval stage for salamanders. It always keeps the larval gills. And actually, you can inject it with hormones that will get it to metamorphose into a normal adult.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can actually get them to become adults if you give them the right hormones. So is that half-formed? Well, the answer, of course, is no, because it's actually very well adapted to its original environment. Unfortunately, its original environment largely doesn't exist. So now it almost only exists in people's aquaria. But, you know.
Yeah.
Still
there, though, hanging on. Give it a shout.
Well, that's the thing, is it's like, I don't know what it would mean to be a half-formed organism. Would you have half a skull? Would you have like no arm? Like what does it even mean?
Yeah.
Well, one could make a case for, say, a caveman being a half-formed organism. Logical Troglodyte, what do you think of that?
We are just a more evolved species. Troglodytes are technically humans, but we're Homo sapien troglodytes. So Homo sapiens sapiens is a minor offshoot that we will one day overtake. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the dipshittery we've been hearing on the screen from our creationist gentleman, and I use that term loosely. And what he said is technically correct. No creationist, and there are Bible literalists, will use the fossil record to show evidence for creation. Well, part of the problem with that is that the fossil record shows evidence for evolution, not creation. But he's also failing to recognize that the converse of that is actually true. Also, that no evolutionary scientist will use the Bible as evidence for evolution. Why is that? Well, let's take a peek at Genesis 1:1. God created Adam out of the dust of the earth and then eventually put him to sleep. Took a rib away from Adam to create Eve. And then about 10 verses later, he creates man and woman together at the same time. Which one was true? Now, I know why both those verses are in the Bible, and if we ever do a Bible history show, I can go on about that ad nauseum, but that's neither here nor there for now. But that just shows that when a Bible literalist will say, it's the infallible Word of God because there's not one contradiction, but yet in the very first chapter, there's one right there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just want to say, because I think... I know parts of the Bible really well, and if I'm correct, Genesis 1:1 is it not? Doesn't it actually start with at the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was good?
No, that's John 1:1, the Gospel of John. Genesis 1:1 is in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I can actually say both of those verses in the Hebrew and Greek.
I'm pretty sure that our sun came first before the earth, but maybe that's just me.
So, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, but there are Christian non-YECs who have not entirely terrible explanations as to why the order of creation is what it is. And some of them are phenomenological, some of them are thematic, some of them are allegorical. So...
Yeah.
I mean,
I assumed a lot of them were allegorical.
Yeah.
And that would be
even like things coming to exist and then light coming to exist. That to me sort of felt like a metaphor for like a human being born. You're born and you're alive and you're there, but you can't see anything yet. And then the light comes in. And
in fact, if you look at fairly earlier Christian theological writers, like in the first millennium, very few of them cared much about the historical details of basically anything up until maybe like 1st and 2nd Kings or Chronicles in the Old Testament. The whole, and even then, still wasn't the primary thing of importance. To them, what was the important part was the moral, philosophical, and theological lessons that can be drawn from this. And so if you look at writers like Origen or Tertullian or Hilary of Poitiers or Augustine of Hippo, they really don't give a shit about was there a physical atom. Like it's not the point. And it's really a fairly recent phenomenon in Christianity that the literal historicity of these stories is the important point to them. And I think that's something that a lot of Christians should reacquaint themselves with, is the first millennium Christian writers, because your average American evangelical barely knows that they even existed. A lot of evangelical Protestants have an idea of like church history, that there was the Old Testament, Jesus, Acts, my pastor being born, and me joining this church. And that's church history. It's like, no, you would have a much more informed and less stupid version of Christianity. Sorry, I accidentally muted myself. If you bothered to actually look into the Christian writers of history, because they have a much more nuanced and less stupid idea than you do. And I'm not endorsing Christianity. I'm just saying you could be a much less stupid Christian, or perhaps even not a stupid Christian, if you bothered to read any of these people. So go do it.
So what you're saying, Dapper, is that, oh, gasp, religion evolves.
I mean, in this case, it sort of evolved into a worse version, at least as far as the science is concerned. I mean,
that helped push the science in the beginning. You know, I mean,
we used to have a badass T-Rex, and now we have chickens. It's lame.
Hey, my favorite dinosaur is a bird, so.
Yeah, well, if you want to hunt down that T-Rex for some Kentucky Fried T-Rex, you go right ahead. I'll stick with the chickens any day.
Oh, no, I mean, actually, my favorite dinosaur is a bird that I eat. It's Meleagris.
Yeah, I say, son, why make it hard on yourself? Stick with chickens.
Should we do more video, or do we have more buzzers?
We're good on buzzers.
Where are we on time here? We're getting close. Let's do one more point of video. Let's do one more point, and then we'll get around the table and wrap up and book a part 2 and finish it up next time.
Awesome.
So this is where we hit play and put a cork in the bottle, and the pressure just builds up until we say, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the contest is you don't want to be the one that bursts, but somebody will.
Okay.
And I'm taking to the end of this point, and then that's it, man.
Okay, cool.
See a stage of stasis where they do not change, and then they go out of the fossil record without evolving into anything else, exactly as the creation model would predict. The fossil record does not prove evolution. Number 4, the idea of mutations.
Yeah, that was kind of quick.
Oh, wow. So, creationism literally predicts nothing, as far as I can tell. And the only thing I've ever seen predicted on the basis of creation is when you're using a null hypothesis for common descent. And it fails as a null hypothesis spectacularly. I believe in general, the chances of so basically, when you're doing a genetic analysis and you want to say, are these organisms related? And if so, how? The null hypothesis is that they are not related at all, right? Because, I mean, what else would it be? Generally speaking, the null hypothesis in this case is disconfirmed at a chance of about 50 million to 1. So evolution is 50 million times more likely in most cases than special creation. I mean, it's
common sense criticisms taking issue with what you're saying. He says, false. Creationists predict the end of the world to piss poor results.
Well, to be fair, some of them do. Most of them actually don't. That's something you see a lot in like single congregation Protestant churches and like the Jehovah's Witnesses. And the Jehovah's Witnesses are actually older Earth creationists, which is interesting. So they actually accept that the Earth is billions of years old. And I believe they think that the faunal succession that you can observe in the fossil record is actually faunal succession, but it's just God wiping out previous organisms to introduce new ones. And I don't know why they think that, but I guess most of them are too busy like doomsday prepping for Armageddon to care.
Well, speaking of Armageddon, yeah, Ash Scott just said, well, the source of creationism predicts a battle in Israel between the flying musicians from the clouds and the forces of the seven-headed sea monster. And, I mean, come on. Don't you guys want to see that?
It does sound cool.
I do.
Yeah,
most people don't realize that Armageddon's actually a real place.
Yeah, it's a hill.
Mm-hmm. The hill of Megiddo.
Mm-hmm. Of course, the other thing is that... So our Revelation, or the Revelation of St. John, or whatever you want to call it, right? It's a part of a well-established genre of literature that's called apocalyptic literature. And it uses a prophetic style to talk about things that are usually political ongoing events. So there's really good reason to think that Revelation maps on to what was then current politics in the Roman Empire much better than it does onto some kind of prediction about the end of the world or anything. And that ties into what I was saying about, maybe modern American evangelicals should look at the history of Christianity. Because if you look at churches that have a long history of things like liturgy and things like that, like the Catholic Church or the Eastern Orthodox Church, there's a reason they never read from Revelation in church. They have it in their Bibles, but it's never actually read in church from the pulpit. And the reason for that is because people make up stupid shit about it. And they knew that way back in the day. They were like, yeah, we're putting this in the Bible because we think people should probably look at it and read it, and it's got some interesting theological points we can make. But there is no way this is going to be part of the regular cycle of readings in churches. So, yeah, once again... American evangelicals are basically just creating the worst possible form of Christianity. Oh, I also got an A and helped co-teach my Christian history class in college.
Well, we can see that explains a little bit to say. I like it very much.
Yeah, well, like I said, awesome. I'm a Renaissance dinosaur. There's always that chance that I might just know the thing, and that was what happened a lot when my professor was like stumped by some question. He was like, "Well, I don't know, Tim, do you know?" And yeah, no, my name being Tim isn't a secret. It's on my channel already.
Okay. Good. I was just going to stumble over you right there. I wonder if, since the point's up, if we shouldn't get around the table and get a wrap from everybody. And we're pushing our time a bit here. We don't want to go too long because we know there's some other good stuff coming up on YouTube, right? So how about Barman? Do you want to jump in, buddy?
I'll quite happily jump in.
Is there a barman?
This guy's a knob jockey, and it's simple as that. He just takes any evidence, cherry picks the bits he wants, and goes, "Look at this, see?" It's like, no, you fuck sponge. These fossils you go on about, as you go up through the fossil ledger, they slowly get more and more complex. I wonder fucking why, you dick. That'll do.
I love it. Hey, Stephen Cup-A-Reason, how about yourself, buddy?
I haven't got really much. Just like Barman said, this guy's a freaking dimwit. He's got no clue what he's talking about. He's just spouting rubbish. I got nothing for him. He's so full of shit, his eyes are brown.
It's true. I love it, man. I love it. Let's see who's up. Whoa, Logical Troglodyte.
Yeah, personally, I don't care what anybody's theological leanings are. And if you choose to believe any organized religion, yeah, more power to you, right? But when it comes to science, you can't just cherry pick the little teaspoon of evidence that you like and discard the Mount Everest of evidence that you don't like. And if you do that, then you're just a flurf.
Well said. I like it. Hey,
Kevin, you got all good there?
Yeah, I had a little coughing fit there. But let's see. So that was a whole lot of not good enough for me. Therefore, this story that I have no evidence for makes more sense. And it just doesn't vibe with me. But Ash Scott said something a moment ago that I resonated with. It was that we've been lied to by metal lyrics regarding the apocalypse, and if anybody can handle the more extreme genres of metal, I highly recommend the album Genesis by Job for a Cowboy, just for the lyrics. It's a really interesting take on Revelation, in which it's kind of told through a conspiracy lens, where the Antichrist is born and rises to political power and starts tracking everyone through. It was the album came out when the Very chip was first becoming a thing. You know, the chip that went.
Oh yeah.
And so that was how the Antichrist was tracking everyone. And at the end, there's the big battle between the seven-headed monster and the trumpets playing and everything. It's really, really elaborate lyrics, just told in a really odd package.
That's awesome. And that's the thing, is it's a really good story if you take it as an end of the world thing. It's just that it's not been a great prediction so far.
No.
Not indeed. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Who was Monkey was on the list next. Is he there?
Monkey, you dork. Fix your internet.
Me now, fucking hell, I was muted.
There you go.
Again.
Later.
Chicken, choke, spanner. That seems to be the word of the day. This guy's an absolute fucking idiot like the rest of them. And the thing is, like, the Earth's surface is changing all the time, so we're fucking losing fossils we'll never see. So there's always going to be bits missing. But then, like any fucking jigsaw puzzle, you piece it together. Another absolute fucking idiot, full of shit. End of.
Right on. Bull, how about you, buddy? Want to chime in on the moron?
Well, I was just going to say that creationism in general is just I don't get it, because anti-evolution, I should say, because anti-evolution, there's so many sciences that support it and it supports in turn, like medical science, huge one, like DNA, that's huge, that proves so much. I don't understand people who discard that mountain of evidence. Just unreal.
It doesn't make sense to me either, buddy.
This guy's a fucking idiot, and he needs a ding, Aimee. If you have the dinger handy, it'd be
There it is.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that's great.
All right. And Aimee, you're up. Your go here, honey.
Thank you. Yeah, this guy, I have to agree with everybody. He doesn't agree with certain things, so his nonsense story makes more sense to him. Yeah, no. Sorry.
No doubt. I agree. What a moron. How do you get so comfortable being so stupid? Isn't that odd?
They pay you for it. He got paid for this. That's exactly
very comfortable.
Well, Dapper, you got the last word here. Chime off and give us what you got.
All right. Well, surprisingly enough, this guy is actually not as bad as some of the creationists I've responded to. So for me, as someone who does this a lot, I'm like, oh, this guy's like easy mode. This guy, I mean, he's not as stupid as he could be, but it's still really stupid. And it's one of those things where it's like, come up with a new argument, guys. Like, you have been spouting the same crap since like the 70s. And I know, because I have books published in the 70s on my shelf about creationism. Get new material, seriously. But on a lighter-hearted note, I mean, please come check out my channel, see if you like the stuff. Like I said, I have something all the way up until Wednesday, except for one day. So if you liked me, come to my channel and watch that. If you don't like me, come to my channel and leave a dislike and tell me in the comments how much you like me, because engagement is engagement.
Yeah, good shout, man. And we totally agree here. This guy's awesome, as you just saw. Definitely some content that's worth it. And I know as a group here, we want to give a big shout out and a congratulations. And Kevin, would you like to lead it, and then you can do the plug and all?
Absolutely. I want to say congratulations to Steve McRae and the rest of the Non Sequitur show.
Absolutely.
Hashtag What About Bull? And
and
Rum and Coke starts in half an hour, so I highly advise everyone head down there.
I will be there.
I think YouTube streams should start doing. Do you guys ever watch Twitch streams? Do you know what like rating is on Twitch?
Oh yeah.
YouTube needs to do raids. At the end of a Twitch stream, you plug whoever you want. You just pick a random person that you like, and you just plug their stream, and everybody goes over there and says hi. It's a great thing. So everybody go to Rum and Coke, and I will plug it in the chat right now.
Yep, and if you want more Dapper Dino, go to Rum and Coke, because I'll be on there. I don't know how much they'll say, but I'll be there.
Awesome. And Ilya Moon said she's going to...
Awesome.
Yeah, Ilya Moon's going to be on, so that's going to be great. It's going to be a really good show on Rum and Coke night. Really, really good stuff. Aimee, is there any other shout-outs we need to do? Do you, or are we pretty much clean and done?
I think we're pretty much caught up.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the Friday edition of the Silly Shill Show. I want to give Dapper Dino a big, huge thank you for joining us. What do you say, everybody? That was awesome. All right.
That was
wicked, man.
You guys are so
Thank you so much.
the oldest geezer I've ever met.
Oldest you're ever likely to meet. There aren't too many older than me.
No.
And we forgot one thing, our shout out to pseudoscience. What do we all say? Break the cows out.
Gosh.
That's awesome. I love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, protect yourself with knowledge. Read a book, because it can literally save your life from the evil pit of hell we call the rabbit hole of pseudoscience. On that note, it's been a great show. We're the Shills. That's Dapper Dino, and we're out of here. Let's say goodnight, everybody. Good night.
Catch you on the flip side.